Okay, so for the ones that were already here, I ask your permission to introduce the topic again. We are here tonight, or whatever time you're gonna listen to this, to talk about a series of topics that are a very initial introduction to Spiritism. We call this Spiritism 101. That is a reference to the courses in the US. That is the first course graduate students take in university, in college. So it's the basics of it. It also called a roadmap program that gives us tools or a map or initial map to guide us through the road of life. That is how I see it. Today, the topic we're going to talk about is God. We are here thanks to BUZZ, the British Union of Spiritist Society, the Spiritist Society of London, and welcoming everyone. As I was talking before, two things. Probably this is the easiest and the toughest topic that I have to talk about, and the one that I never know how to do it. And I've been doing the guiding people on these courses for a while now, but this is always a topic that I had to research again. And I'm not sure always will be there. So it's a learning path for me as well. The other topic is I ask everyone, my father told me I speak too fast. So probably if I'm speaking too fast and you cannot understand, please drop a note in the chat. Also, the chat is going to be open, so you can drop notes and questions, but raise your hands. Both Elsa and I are seeing your mics open or closed. If you want to open your mic and ask questions anytime. The more we interact the questions, the better we get to the end of this and clarify what you might want to know. And if I know, or if not, I'm going to be pretty clear. So let's start. God. I took this picture today. This is Ganesha. It's on my bed. Do you think this is God? There's some of the picture, there's some you can see probably, I think here you can see the Buddhas behind me. Do you consider this as a God? For many people, billions of people, consider this little elephant here as a god. In India, this is the one they worship the most, probably god of luck. And that's how they call it, Ganesha. Maybe you consider God this other one here. This is an interesting picture. It's that I saw when I was last in Germany. This is done by German Poland impressionists, showing Jesus listening to a villager or someone that works in the farm. Do you consider yourself, well, Jesus is a God? Apart from me showing you beautiful pictures and art that I'm really keen into, many of the questions that we have is what we understand as God. As some people in part of the Catholic Church that define Jesus as a God, as part of the whole Trinity. Some people worship the statue of Ganesha or Vishnu or the Buddhas. Buddha himself told that we should not do images, and I at least have 3 or 5 because they're beautifully done in Asia where I lived in. But in reality, if we have, that is sometimes the primary view people have what is God. I was having a chat with one person that works with me yesterday, and she was asking me, but do you consider the image God or the sense? Whole Mary or the other sense? Not really, and probably this is what creates a lot of confusion, that the different traditions and philosophies consider this either the images or the representations or the characters or whatever it is as God. In Spiritism, this is the first question on the Spirit's book, the book that Allan Kardec, as we talked about the other session, the one that helped us codify the teaching of the spirits. This is the first question on his compilation of teachings. And the first thing we always tell that is interesting is he doesn't ask who is God. He asks what is God. And the spirits tell us God is the supreme intelligence, the primary cause of all things. So it starts saying that it doesn't define as an old uncle, grandpa with beards, or any imagery or any sense. It defines as a what, and talks about the supreme intelligence and the primary cause. So it defines. So if it's the primary cause of everything, it doesn't have something that comes before him, because it's the primary. And also all that comes after him are consequences or creations of the supreme intelligence. So even in the Catholic, in Christianity, if you think about Jesus, Jesus is not God, as there is only one God. That is the primary cause. We understand in Spiritism, and I'll make this point, that there's another question on the Spirit's book that says, Jesus, if you are looking for a model of what it is to be the most advanced, or if you are looking for a model to inspire you in a evolution, Jesus, you have to look for Jesus, because Jesus is the most benevolent being, spirit that we have known. So, but he's not God. I'm not saying this in any way to diminish Jesus. On the contrary, for me, he is the primary model that we have to look for. But it's just to create this distinction, depending on the different traditions people join us from, might have these confusions on their mind. What is interesting on this concept is I had done it before, but I did it today. And the same definition is true in many different religion traditions or philosophies. So this is about Hinduism. Hinduism that has thousands and thousands of years of teachings. And even in the Spiritism, there are interesting books that talk about how some of these teachings are evolved. Memories of a Suicide tells us a little bit about it. Interesting book for another time. But Hinduism talk that they consider God as Brahman, is the Sanskrit word that tells that, contrary to many popular beliefs, Hindus recognize one eternal God, Brahman, the eternal origin, who is the cause and foundation of all existence, the primary cause of everything. They have exactly the same definition. And just out of curiosity, the Ganeshas, the Vishnus, the Krishnas are representations of this primary cause, as many come out of this creation, the primary cause of existence. There are some different representations. Same is true on the Jewish tradition. And if anyone comes out of the Jewish tradition, I'll first apologize that I wrote the word God, because on the Jewish tradition, you never mention the word, but just for us here to understand, they define more or less the same one as the absolute one, indivisible, incorruptible being, the creator, the cause and preserver of all existence. It's omnipresent and incorporeal. Again, the different philosophies talks about the creation, that this a cause of the existence. Same is true in Catholicism, in the different, but creating Lord of heaven, almighty, eternal, immeasurable, incomprehensible, infinite in will, understanding, never perfection. There is one true and living God. So if you come out of the Catholic traditions and you have all some Peter, some Thomas, some James, Virgin Mary, all of them are spirits. They are not gods. They are highly evolved spirits, pure, benevolent, that came to us to give us teaching. Some Francis or some Paul, that you're going to see a lot of quotes here of Paul. So they are evolved spirits, but they are not God because there is only one. I'll stop here for a bit. Up to now, any questions, comments?
Vanessa, I think later on, because you said the Catholicism, they accept God as just one, true and living God. When it says living God, they are referring to Jesus or not?
This is, Elsa, there are different sects within Catholicism.
Mm-hmm.
There are some sects within Catholicism that understand God as the creator, and this is the most acceptable one, and Jesus as the Son. And there are some sects within Catholicism that they understand this living God as Jesus as part of the Trinity. And the divine is Jesus, the Holy Spirit, and God, and it's part of a Trinity. So even within Catholicism, there are different sects of and different understandings. So what complicates things a little bit, and that's why there's some Protestant church and different Protestant church, different sects and different groups within even the Roman Catholic Church. Not to talk about, I don't know, just out of curiosity, because I'm very curious. There are some Catholic groups that we have, sometimes we never heard about, and I might connect to them on the north of Africa. On Ethiopia, there is an independent Catholic group. On the north of Africa, on the coast, and they have different definitions of God and Jesus as well. This is not any.
So Ahmed is here.
Yes.
He's from Somalia,
Yes.
and as he's in Africa as well, no? And
Yes.
there in your city, in your country, Catholicism.
Now, just to, I think the Catholicism, there's first for you Somalis who are Catholic, but the Catholicism come to the south of Somalia during the colony, and Italy was colonized by the Somali South. British was colonized by the north of Somalia. French was colonized in a place called Djibouti, part of Somalia. So Somalia has been divided. So the Catholicism and Protestancy come with the Catholic, but the majority of the people are Muslim. But what about what we have? We have a Catholic church, big Catholic church in Mogadishu, capital city. But a few Somalis are not yet engaged. Mm-hmm. But about the God, before, was a link between African spirituality and Abrahamic faith through Moses. Mm-hmm. Moses was grow in African house, Pharaoh, Egyptians, who are Africans, and he learned the theologies and spirituality there. So it's the figure and information, African spirituality influenced the Torah, Christianity, and Islam. It's a link there.
It's great that you are here now learning Spiritism, Ahmed.
Yes, but
Yeah.
before Islam, we believe that something called Waqaw. Waqaw is the god of sky, the creator, but in an African name.
It's one God. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Wonderful.
But I find out the spirituality and Spiritism or spirituality and the Islamic and Sufism are same. No issue, no differences. No difference.
Thank you, Ahmed. So
Yeah.
perhaps later on you can explain more when she will be there. I don't know, Vanessa. Sorry, Vanessa, that I interrupt you.
No, it's not about being sorry. I think it's really, as we talk, we get to know each other better, first of all, and we understand each other better, because one of the reasons also that I brought all of these, and the Muslim definition will come later on, because and it's pretty similar to all of these, is at the end of the day, we are the same. And the belief in God, as thanks to Ahmed, highly regarded, comes with us through, since we are here on earth, since humanity was here, and through different definitions and different ways of expressing, or different dogmas, I would call, but we have a lot in common. And we should engage and talk more to each other. I learned the other day also that Muslim, the word Islam also means peace. That is a beautiful word for us to think about.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so I gave you plenty of different definitions on God, on different philosophies, but does God really exist? Many come from these different traditions and start questioning. Okay, you can give me many different definitions, and some are good, some are bad, or most of them are mostly the same, but does it really exist? And one of the things is, the answer to in the Spirit's book say, apply the method of science. If there's a cause, investigate that cause, and if you go back, if that cause is not the work of human beings, reason shall provide the answer. So observe the universe. If the universe exists, there's a cause to the universe. If we deny that the universe exists, in a way, we are denying the existing of the primary cause that created the universe. If we deny the effect that is the universe, our existence, the planet, the nature, the sky, all of that has a cause. It doesn't come out of the blue. In the sense that it doesn't happen by, I do this, like, if it was like that, I could create all sorts of plants and animals and planets, but it's not, because there's a cause that has created that. And if you just look at the marvelous world we live in and how everything works so in tandem and with such brilliance, I would say, there has to be intelligent cause. Most of the controversy about the existence of God is the way you define it. As we just saw, if you will investigate the philosophical aspects, and the definition is this primary cause, that is an intelligent cause, and we look around and we see all the effects, we say, okay, that should be created by an intelligent source. So let's define this primary intelligent cause as God. I've seen this example before, but I never related this example to Abraham, as Ahmed was saying. The Abrahamic religions that we have, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, all came from Abraham. And one interesting fact is Abraham was ostracized or expelled in a way from the Mesopotamia region, that is the south of Iraq, bring the target, the river, south of the river. And Abraham, because his father was a statue maker. He came from a family that built statues and of different deities that at the time they considered God. And Abraham did not believe in that. Kind in a way, got in conflict with his family and moved towards Israel, what today is Israel and the Palestine region. And I always joke whenever I tell this story that he said to us that we should not do statues and figures, and you go into the church and they are full of them. Anyway, so he told this story that it is interesting. If you think about at the time, he probably gave different similar example, but the logic is if you go to Mars and you find a watch, do you think it would randomly be formed on the soil of Mars? Or if you reach out to Mars or to the moon, let's put the moon, and found a wristwatch and let's say an Apple Watch, just to make it easy, someone had created the watch. It could not have formed instantaneously. So it has to be created. Someone else have to visit. So when Abraham looked at the world, and if you think about that region where he came from, every year through the rain, the river would flow and fertilize the soil. So that would be the time that you plant and you have food. So, and it will happen every year, the river will go. And if you look at the sky, the moon is here, it's not here, and the seasons and the animals and everything, this could not be randomly formed. So it had to go, something had to create a world that has so much design. It doesn't come out of nowhere. There has to be something extremely, extremely intelligent that is creating this world that is so intricate and elaborate and connected. It doesn't, for me, it's the very proof of the existence of God. Others have done and used the same argument. Newton has done the same. There's a famous story about the scientist Newton, that one of his lab assistants entered in his lab and saw a universe on the roof that he has created out of balls. He created kind of a mobile or some sculpture replicating the universe. He studied the universe like Newton. So he created that, put on the roof, and people would go and say, his lab assistant asked, Professor, how it was created? And he said, yeah, I did create this thing. And then he said, but I'm not as intelligent as God that has created this and works in such perfect tandem. So if I'm able to create this really mere representation of that, someone has to be able to create this marvelous thing that we live on. And some scientists have also defined what are the odds and the probabilities of the universe to be created out of random choice? And someone that was way smarter than me calculate the probabilities, and it's so minimally important. The probability is so low that I even don't recall the number, because there are so many zeros out there to say what is the probability that this has been created out of random coincidence. That is almost virtually impossible, statistically speaking, if anyone likes the statistic, that the universe that we live on has been created by chance. Okay. I think, any comments or question on the existence of God? Anyone think differently, has seen this example of different examples of Abraham, or? I don't think so. If I take the time to continue, one of the things that a lot of people ask is, yeah, yes, I understand. I believe God exists. I believe in this logic of science that this primary cause will have created the universe. But can I understand a little bit more? And the spirits tell us that our ability to clearly understand the mystery of the divinity is obscured by the matter, and as we evolve, we come closer for perfection, we might be able to entirely or fully grasp the essential nature of God. So at the beginning, we confuse the creator with the creature and attribute the imperfections to God. As we evolve and deepen the nature of things more deeply, we are able to more fully comprehending God and understand that for now, we are understanding the rational idea of God, even though that idea will be incomplete. And this is an interesting concept that requires all of us, and I'll tell my personal experience here is, probably you'll notice by now that I'm extremely curious. So I was trying to understand more about God and looking, searching, and trying and coming to all sorts of philosophical debates. And I have a sister, and we talk about all sorts of philosophical things. But it has come to me that I have to be a little bit more humble and understand that at this stage of evolution, this is what I'm going to be able to comprehend of the essential nature of God. What we need to strive for, as they say here, is to come closer to understanding that essence by evolving ourselves and evolving our moral sense of being a human being. As we evolve, and something that we might talk more on the coming talks, is as we evolve morally and our spirits evolve, the impact matter has on us is diminished. And as this impact is diminished, our vision of God will get less obscure, and we might be able to more fully understand its essential nature. So when I understood that for me to understand the mystery of divinity, I should not be on my mind doing all sorts of thinking and study and trying to, I'm not saying not to study and not saying not to be curious, but the important thing is I'm only going to be able, and all of us, when we evolve morally, because then we are going to get closer to that essence by one way or the other. So at least for me, that was a very important understanding on this spiritual journey, that all of us are in different ways and different paths, but we all will get there. I think that's also another very important teaching of Spiritism is all of us, all spirits, are here to evolve. We have been created equal, ignorant spirits, and all of us it's our destiny to develop and be evolved throughout time. Some of us take more time, some take less time, but you're always on this journey. But even though we are not be able to fully comprehend what God is about, we can understand its attributes. And the Spirit book also tell us about his attribute. First one, God is eternal, meaning it has no beginning, it has no end. And this is easy to understand if you think about that. If there was a beginning, that beginning was a primary cause. If there's an end, it does mean that the universe will end. So this is not how we think. We think that there's no beginning, no ending, and God has this eternity. Just a comment here. The Spirit's book also say that our understanding of timing will evolve, and as we understand, as we evolve morally. And sometimes my nephew says, and the time does not exist. This is a concept that you need to move away from. And I say, okay, I will get there eventually. As I'm not there yet, we just think that there's no beginning, no end. God doesn't change, is unchangeable. The other thing is, if it changes, there will be no stability on the universe. And as we can easily observe, the universe is pretty stable. Yes, there are some events that happen, some disasters that happen, but they have causes and consequences. And some of the consequences might even help us evolve in different ways. Other thing is, God is not material, God is immaterial. We cannot start looking for God and think about God as the old grandpa or anything else. That is a different nature that we eventually, as we evolve, we might be able to understand. But important here is, if God was matter, matter changed. I was not a huge fan of chemistry, but if you remind your chemistry classes, matter interact all the time, creating new things. And that is, again, unstable. And we all know that this word is stable. God is unique. There's only one, because if there was more than one, there was a primary cause that had created, and there would be no power in the organization of the universe. And we know the universe has this all characteristic of being brilliant, and there's stability and uniqueness. God is all powerful because it is unique. It is the one thing, the primary. If there was anyone more powerful than them, it would be a work of another God, and we know there's only one cause. So in some representations that you have God and the devil playing on these polarities, that doesn't exist, because then would be someone counterbalance the word of this unique primary cause. And on the other side, who has created the devil? So if there one cause that has created both, that would be an initial God. So that also doesn't exist. It's supremely just and good, and is the greatest wisdom of the Lord. It's revealed in the smallest and greatest thing. So we all believe God is justice and goodness. And if we don't understand it yet, is because we haven't yet to understand the root causes. On that topic, I would invite everyone to join the coming topic that we are going to talk about, reincarnation, because the different lives and the cycle of life, that might be able to explain a lot of questions that I get on, because we know, and if you look around, the world is not just. And sometimes, a lot of times, the world is not good. And you say, oh, but you are telling me that you have this cause, primary cause, that is just and good, and he has created this world that is unjust. so many people have different opportunities, different ways of living, different sufferings and disease and sickness and all of that. But if we understand the cycle, how spirits evolve through the reincarnations, you understand that yes, God is supremely just and good. That is the law of cause and effect that all of us are subject to. One interesting, and here I saved the Islamic view for later, just to say that in a different philosophical view, it's kind of, when I read this, I thought it was super interesting that also Muslims define God as the creator and the design of the world, same definition we have seen throughout. So again, pretty much in line of, and this is the thing, spirits have been communicating and guiding us through the prophets, through the spirits now throughout the ages. So they have been telling us consistently different messages. And one of that is about God. And the interesting thing about is that Muslims also classifying the attributes of God pretty similar in the way that the spirits define it. So it's transcendent, it's above and beyond anything that exists in the world, it's fair and just, it's close to every human being and things on the earth, it's all powerful, it's all loving, and it's all mercy and compassion. So it's interesting that the attributes, and I could have brought all of them again from the different traditions, sometimes they all go into this, that is above and beyond the world, it's all powerful, it's kind, it's all loving, and it's just. Okay. I'm pausing just to see if there's any comments on the attributes of God.
No, just the first of all, this is God is one in all the nations and God of the universe, and so all its attributes is right. But sometimes the God of the sectors, the God in the community level or society level of the, so sometimes some people are, every nation, they give a name to the God and different attribute. So that is a level of understanding. But the way when the person have open mind and become a spiritual person, you become beyond all that sectors and groups, see a God in everywhere and every human being. So sometimes people who believe in God and killing the people in the name of God, so the behavior and the action are also contradict. So sometimes, and you see, this is from the culture, not from the God. It's from the religious leaders and sectors and how they've been teach, but they didn't reach the level of to understand the real God, who justice and belongs and equal to the all. Thank you.
No, and I think it's, I haven't, you said it perfectly, and I think if we are open, and in one sense, we are spirits in the path to the moral evolution, and some of us, or I would dare say that all of us, as the spirits say, we don't truly understand what God is about. And as we don't truly understand, we try to give it names or try to keep it close to us and try different definitions or create our own selfishness. In being selfish, we define, oh, this my God here with this name is better than the other God with the other name. But as we evolve morally, we're going to comprehend God better, and then we might finally find peace and love, and that's the hope. Or then we find hope, peace, and love, and then we find God. I'm not really sure what is the path there, but they are all connected in a way. Okay, thank you. I'll talk.
Vanessa, interesting for us, for me, because I was a strong Catholic attendee in the Catholic Church, etc., until my 23 years old. When I found Spiritism and slowly was studying what you are pointing today, I studied when I was 23 years old. Starting comprehending nature, God, because I have saints, I have got Mother Mary, etc. And it was completely different. And now, for me, it's so easy to understand God, so easy. As John the Baptist said, if someone asked who is God, what is God, for me, I don't know. But if the person do not ask me anything about God, I know. It's something that is inside you. The answer, of course, is beautiful. What the Islamic view is seeing about God is the same as far as I know, the same as our attributes that we study in Spiritism. And for me, God is nature. If you respect the nature, you respect the seasons, you contribute with goodness to the world, to the all human beings, equals, you are acting towards God. You are really doing what God is teaching nature through our conscience. We have to open our conscience and see beyond what people are showing us, because it's inside us, in our conscience. No? More or less. Wonderful.
And Elsa, I think, for everybody to know, Elsa and I did not talk before I was presenting this, because she gave me the hint to the next page that I'm going to show. That is this view if God is within us. I bring you the Hindu view. I'll bring you the Spiritist view. The names, just because I kept the name in Sanskrit, is in some schools of Hinduism. Brahman is different from Atman, that is the self or the spirit in each being. So you have these two things. You have Brahman, that, as we saw before, is the definition of God, being different from Atman, that is the self, the spirit, and these are two things. In some schools of thought, there's some name there, Atman and Brahman are linked together, and there is an identical substance of Brahman is everywhere and inside each living being, and there's connected spiritual oneness in all that exists. Meaning, if I translate all this Sanskrit here, different words, things here is, yes, God is within us and live inside each human being and create that connection, spiritual connection in everything that exists. Because if God is inside us and inside everybody else and permeates myself, you, everyone, we are all connected in this spiritual thing. This view of that is called the non-dual school, that Brahman, the God, and the self are connected, is a pretty strong view that gave forth to many different traditions, because Hindu is thousands of years old, and the Vedas are, as they call, eternal, because they say they always existed. This philosophy has in a way, influence how many different traditions think about God. In Spiritism, just to be clear, we understand there are two, there's a question on the Spirit book that asks if there are two general elements in the universe, matter and spirit. And the Spirit answer, yes, these are the two elements of the universe, matter and the spirit, and God, the creator, that in God, the creator that is above all. These three elements are the principle of all that exists, the universal Trinity. So Trinity in Spiritism is the three components of the universe would be God, matter, and the spirit. So in that definition, it's more in line with the Hindu thought about a dualistic view. God and the spirit are different things. But at the same time, I understand that as you connect more with God and you evolve, that connection might be defined by some as being within you. And as Elsa said, for her and for me, and I invite all of you to think about is what is God for you? Because that connection with the divine, anyone experiences in different ways. I have a couple of minutes, and I know we are about to end our time, but I will just give you a final couple of thoughts on how and first of all, should we worship God? And the spirits tell us first, think about what is worship. If I'm say, should we worship? First, we need to talk about what is worship. And worship is the elevation of thought towards the creator. So it's the way that our soul gets closer to God through this worship. So this elevation of thought may be done in many different ways, through praying, through meditation, through good deeds, from action. So, but when you have in your mind that thinking about the divine and elevating our thought towards God, you are worshiping him. And the spirit tells us, if this as by any chance, is we do that because it's the product of our education. And the spirit tells us, no, this is intrinsic. Like throughout ages, people believing in God. And since they believe in God, they understand that we comes with nature to elevate our thoughts towards God and being in connection with him. Or that is being in this to humbly bow before the supreme being that can protect us. So yes, the question is, yes, we should worship God, but worshiping God is about this elevation of thought. If we go back to the Bible, because there are some people that worship in different way, and I love it, this passage on the Bible that is on Paul, one of his letters to the Hebrews. The way to worship God, I will put my law in their hearts and I will write them on their mind. The sins and lawless acts I will remember no more. So the way to worship God, it's in our hearts, in our minds. It's not about paying tributes or killing animals or stopping eating chocolate or whatever else. If you don't change what is on your heart, on your mind and your heart, and through this connection reach to God, this is how we properly worship him, because by doing a true sincere feeling or sentiment or towards the divine, this is the way to worship God. And I think this is the last page that I would like to share with you, is in this worship, we should make every effort to be whole, in peace with everyone, and to be holy. Because without that holiness, we will not see the Lord. And the holiness, the Spirit tells us that is, instead of our offering, we should offer God through our offerings and sacrifice with blessed love towards our neighbors, adoring Him in the altar of our heart, and should continue the work that is ours to realize. So continues to be for us an invite to be peaceful, sharing love, working, being kind towards our neighbors. That is a true feeling coming to the heart and moving this into action. Then we are going to be able not only to evolve ourselves and be, I would say, have a better life here now and in the future, and then also being able to be more closely connected to God and better understanding this divinity. So it's always an invite for us to practice good deeds, be kind and to our neighbors, and share love. Nothing better than that, I would say.
Wonderful. Good. Wow, such a good lesson today, Vanessa.
Yeah.
Yes.
I got some help, Helsa, in this thing.
Wonderful, really, yeah. So if you will stop sharing now, or?
Yeah, I can stop sharing.
So I'll stop the recording, okay?